What's Thursday normally like for people?
Thursday, Thursday's just the day where people love to be little bastards.
Mm-hmm.
They just like to roll around in the dirt, get a little mud on them, feel a little bad, do some, go out there, be a little evil, just be a little bad.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Just feeling themselves.
I think that more people should be evil in a fun way.
Such as?
Like, I don't know, make a little chaos. Make a little silly stuff happening. I'm not talking about, like, polluting the earth or owning 50 houses, but, like...
You're just saying that, like, people should be more mischievous and, like, up to some stuff and having a good time.
I think that's the better way to live.
William, what episode are we on? 8. I just checked.
8, yes. I was like, because we had 4 for July, 2 for August. We were supposed to do 2 for September. We are not sorry about that, but there's nothing happening in September.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 8.
Yeah.
Of critically acclaimed podcast, Holidaze. We are on episode 8 of the 8th month. That's what October stands for.
Hey, wait.
And we've come to give an update. The update is, what happened after Coraline? We were gonna do Fantastic Mr. Fox 2 weeks later, but then life things happened, we can say.
Yeah.
Just, stuff comes up, it happens.
Scheduling's hard.
Scheduling's
we're
hard.
not... Until we're getting advertisers and some kind of Patreon revenue where we are required to do this, like, actually
HelloFresh,
regularly.
AdamandEve.com. Come on.
Oh no,
we'll do it.
Not that one. But yeah, we'll skip one. Hopefully, just the one.
Well, we just ended up running into the issues of we're gonna skip this, and nothing happens in September. It's just a boring month. If your birthday's in September, you're cool. But as for holidays, there's just nothing there. And we were just like, it's fine. We could skip one. And we were going to do another, and October started. Today, the day that you are listening to this will be October 11th? 9th.
9th, yes.
October 9th.
The second Sunday of October.
The second Sunday. We were going to do one last Sunday, but then that happened, like, immediately. And also, we just didn't have the time to do anything there. It's all fine. It's fine. We figured out the rest of the month, and we're going to be doing consecutive episodes every week again for this month, and probably not for November, but we'll see.
We'll see what November holds for us.
We've got, like, at least one movie planned for November.
There's the Thanksgiving time, yeah. And that's it.
Yeah, that's it. That's our update, and instead, we're going to talk about other stuff now.
I realized, though, that my little haha funny just now of I think people should be a little bit more evil, a little bit more mischievous, ties in with our movie, actually.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Descendants.
Which, don't make me do that, because I will do that. I will watch all of the Descendants movies over again.
They're not holiday movies, we can't do it.
They're not, no, but...
What did we watch this week?
We watched The Addams Family, which, was your first time experience with it.
Yeah, I've never watched pretty much any Addams Family media, to my knowledge.
Kind of sort of like Coraline for me, also. I had not seen... We watched the first Addams Family movie from 1991.
Yes, 1991, starring... I don't want to mess up the name, but is it Angelica Houston or Huston?
I say Houston, but if I'm wrong,
Angelica
then she can
Houston
come and tell me
sounds
herself.
Right. The late Raul Julia, Christopher Lloyd, Christina Ricci, etc., etc. Just a really good cast, and just in general, obviously most of them were famous beforehand, but this did sort of strike a goth renaissance, I would say. This feels like of that era where we were getting a lot of these, like, for children, or more geared towards, like, a family-friendly audience, like comedy horror, like I'm going to mention Casper, but Casper's not really a horror movie, but it is a movie about a ghost and etc.
It's a supernatural themed thing.
Goosebumps came out around, not Goosebumps. I mean, Goosebumps, but I meant Beetlejuice is what I meant.
Yeah, there you had a lot of this supernatural, not horror comedy, but I mean that would apply more to Beetlejuice, I would say. But just these kind of like quirky oddball family kind of things. Tim Burton was just off doing his own stuff. Like we've got Edward Scissorhands also in this same vein. So we have a lot of that kind of aesthetic in this time, of this dark, weird, oddball thing going on here. And it makes for good viewing. And I think a lot of it has aged into our generation, of these ideas of both like aesthetic appearance as well as like you'll see a million and one posts of these things of like, why would you want to be Harley and Joker when you could be Gomez and Morticia kind of thing, which like true, but just this idea of these completely in love, enamored with each other couple at all times that like, y'all are in public, like take a breath sometimes. But it's just this romance that like you have with this person who, with your flaws, with their flaws, enjoy each other, and just the weird ass family that comes from this. There's something endearing about that, and that you are allowed to look the way that you want to look, dress the way that you want to dress, like their house being this old haunted mansion style thing, but it's like, despite all of these things, like, they are happy with their lives, they are open, they are accepting, they are caring. And I think that really hits a chord with a lot of also queer people as well. So,
oh, for sure. Like, I could definitely like make the correlation there. It is one of those things where it's like there's so much that is to be said about this movie, I feel. Mm-hmm. Like, my mind has just been running since watching it. Like you said, about being different than others in a very normie world.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite parts of this movie were just... one of my favorite parts of this movie is that even though the Addams Family are portrayed as very different, they do very different things than your average normal 2.5 family would.
Mm-hmm.
And are perceived as strange and weird. None of, like, the supernatural stuff ever gets called out. At least,
yeah.
And again, I'm only speaking on this movie. I have not watched 1964 show. I haven't watched Family Values, or I don't have much connection with it, etc. I'm only speaking about those one in particular. But just things like normie characters will go to the house and they will see like thing, like this hand just crawling around at top speed doing things, or join a seance, or just all the various weird things that happen there. And people like turn an eye up or like a nose up at it, but they don't like freak out about it or like think of it as like different in a way that is like supernatural. Like it feels like a very, like, this is a natural part of the world. It's just weird that you're doing it. I don't know. I think that was like such a like a weird and interesting takeaway from the movie.
You've got Thing, who's just this disembodied hand running around, and people are, like, understandably freaked out by it, but it's not like... It's like an immediate reaction, and then they kind of are just like, okay. Like, that happened.
It's like when two characters interact later in the movie, like one of them being this very, like... Her name's Margaret, and I kept making the joke of, oh, she looks like Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah.
But then she, like, has, like, these interactions with another character from Addams Family lore, Cousin It. And, like, at first it's like, oh, this is strange, but then the two of them, like, connect in a way that is just, like, very interesting. It's like, oh, this isn't weird. This is just people being people in the world, and we're all the same deep down, even if we might look different in a sense.
They get together, and I'll even say that they are still together in the next movie.
That's like, good.
They're around.
Hell yes. I'm so happy for that. That was like one of my favorite parts of the movie. That was so cute.
Yeah. The surprise romance thread.
Cheering for them.
But yeah, you even got things like Morticia's brings up multiple times that their family has had like a history of witches to them.
Yes.
Her mother is constantly like messing with potions and spells and cauldrons. Like Morticia herself says that she studied hexes and spells and things like that. So it's the idea that like magic, you could say, is a natural part of this world, but it is
ostracized,
removed. Yes, ostracized is a good one.
Because of what it is, because of how society has always viewed things like that as bad and morally corrupt.
And to an extent there, you could even say, because they kind of, the family itself shows that they aren't against, like, murder and violence and stealing and all of this other stuff kind of deal.
They do
but
bad
they also
stuff.
see it as, like, yeah, they do bad stuff, but they see it almost as a game kind of thing. The Addams Family current isn't about to go out and murder the townsfolk, for example.
Yes. Well,
but
Pugsley does cause a car crash that we don't know exactly what happens with that. But but him having multiple stop signs.
Pugsley and Wednesday, they're very chaotic, violent little children.
It's child precociousness. It's fine.
Yeah. They'll grow out of it, maybe. Yeah, no, they're the idea that even the villains in both movies, I will say, are looked upon with sympathy by the Addams, where it's like, I appreciate what you're doing as someone who knows how to do bad stuff and has probably done bad stuff. But, like, you didn't have to do this kind of thing. Like, we're fine if you wanted to, like, talk about it. If you wanted to steal our fortune, if you wanted to do this, that, or the other, you could have just asked, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing of it feels straight up like you said, they sympathize or pity them. It's like, if you didn't go to such underhanded means to, like, get at us and what we do, we'd be welcome every character in with open arms. Like, they are a very, very welcoming family, all their quirks aside, and they never really treat any of these they never treat strangers with, like, instant disdain. They see other people as strange because they believe or they know that their way of life is natural to them. And so they see how other people act as, oh, you poor thing. But as the villains are morally corrupt in the way of being driven by greed or, like, a lust for power, if they would have, like you said, if they would have just straight up come to them like, hey, give us your money, it's like, okay, fight us for it, play us in a game for it, let's talk it out. We'll work with you on that kind of thing. Like, do you want to steal our fortune? Cool, we're going to set up a heist movie for you, probably. Like, we will set this up in a way that will be fun for everyone.
We are going to rig traps throughout our house, and if you die, you die. But if you win...
That's on you!
Yeah, like, you get all of our money kind of thing. These are your options. It's like a... It feels weird to say a friendly Saw game.
In a sense, kind of like, I mean, I feel like that's how it could be set up, though. That's what they do.
But it's what they do. Yeah.
I think this movie's great. I really like it.
There's even, like, an interesting... I just had the thought of, like, again, the Addamses, like, seeing certain quirks in other people as the quote-unquote normal people as strange, but they don't demean or look down on them for it.
Yes.
There's a part in both this movie and in the next one where Morticia has to read a storybook to children. And in the second movie, I think it's like a fairy tale, like a princess fairy tale kind of thing she's reading through. And at the end, she kind of skips to the pages and she looks and she says, "Oh no, they live." And it's like, just these twists on these things. But then when she's reading the books to the children in this movie, And it's like, oh, Hansel and Gretel threw the witch into the oven. And she asks the kids, how do you think that felt for the witch? And it's like, no one thinks about that, realistically.
Come on. How do you think she felt?
Maybe we should. Yeah, like, this is not a sympathize the villain, as Disney has been doing, for example. But I think it is interesting to look at villainous characters and ask in a way, why are they doing what they are doing? It can just be they're bad, and that's fine. But I think it is interesting to look and ask these questions sometimes. And I think that's kind of what Addamses do, is like, they look at why people are the way that they are, but they don't, like, necessarily need a reason behind it either.
In a sense, they are the ideal, like, goals of what you would want a family to be. Maybe not in exactly, like, that sense, but they are just a group of people that love each other very much and show it in very different ways, and also are very strong together. Like, they stick together no matter what. It is very pleasant. We've talked about this, about the family and about our things that we like from it. Let's get into discussing the movie beat by beat, because I have like certain things I want to touch on when we get to certain scenes that I think would be nice. But Gordon/Uncle Fester's thing might have been a throwaway line that I missed really early on that implies that he is the real Uncle Fester all along. But
yes, he is. He is the Uncle Fester all along.
Did his mother say he was adopted really early?
No, they said that she found him 25 years ago.
Yes, but did she?
But
that was the cover story, I think.
And she just that was true. Was that he lost his memory after Fester disappeared when he and Gomez had it out. And she found him with no memory and was like, oh yeah, you're my son, I'm your mother, and just kind of went from there. And then also was taking care of him for 25 years. So it is Fester the whole time. He just doesn't remember that he's Fester.
As we open up this movie, we have Gomez Addams, the patriarch of the family, sort of sad over the absence of Fester, of his brother who has disappeared for 25 years. No one knows what happened to him, and they assume he's dead. They had a falling out in the past, as you said, and tried multiple seances. They have never been able to contact his spirit, so they were never sure if he has been dead this entire time, or if he is simply roaming the earth away from the family. Either way, Gomez, sad man about it. We obviously get introduced to Morticia, his beautiful, lovely wife. Morticia, the shading is the lighting there is like one of my favorite parts of her character. It's so interesting. And I'm sure I'm sure that the effect was done with like lighting on set, maybe, or maybe it was touched up afterwards, or maybe it was just like a really cool makeup trick. But I kept wondering, like, I just kept like thinking, like, how it was they were doing this in the moment. Like, if they were, like, lighting her face very specifically the way it was in every scene that she was, like, that she was the focus of. They do a great job of it. Like, the way her silhouette is, like, fantastic in pretty much every scene she's in. We are introduced to her. There is the, I would say, iconic line for some people, with Gomez watching she's not sleeping actually, but she is resting, I'd say, resting upon their bed, saying that he would die for her, he would kill for her, either way, what bliss. Like, that feels like such a good encapsulation of their relationship, or like his feelings towards her. I feel like this is echoed again later on, like towards the end of the movie, with Gomez saying, to live without you, only that would be torture, and Morticia responding, a day alone, only that would be death. They are extremely that couple, and, you know, in some media, this would feel like weird to have a couple that is like so into each other, But it feels natural here. It just feels like this is what these characters are. They are just so in love with each other in a way that to be without each other would feel at like they were dying.
I think there's such an earnestness behind it, because you would see with a lot of other couples in movies, again, we've watched so many Hallmark movies at this point.
We've watched a lot of Hallmark movies now.
And it's like, normally seeing like a cutesy couple romance kind of thing, and it's just kind of like this very saccharine, like, kind of thing behind it, where it's like, okay, we get that you're in love, what else do you bring to the table? But like, Gomez and Morticia are just interesting characters in their own right, who also happen to be obscenely in love with each other.
It is just so nice. And also that there is never a moment of like what you would maybe think of as like early 90s or like that old movie flair for like husband-wife comedy where it's like, oh, they hate each other. That we conveniently get with two other characters we meet very soon after. Tully and Margaret Alford, who are...
So I read that Tully is the Addams Family lawyer.
Got it, yeah, that's true.
But he is in debt to a loan shark / con artist, who is Abigail, our villainess. Yeah, I feel like there's just a really good mirroring between Morticia and Gomez and Margaret and Tully, where we get this like very genuine scene of Gomez and Morticia professing their love for each other in their unique way, and then like immediately cutting to Tully and Margaret like bickering at each other, like as if like they're in such an unhappy marriage that they are trapped themselves into and could not even think of a way out of it without like it going bad for either of them. Just a very fun dynamic between all of them. But yes, Tully comes to Gomez trying to get some more money, trying to figure out a way to make enough money to pay off the loan shark, Abigail Craven. We get a nice sword fight scene between Gomez and Tully, where Tully is obviously not able to keep up, but he's trying at least, and I think that was really... that sort of goes to show that they seem to have a rapport, that they've done this multiple times in the past, and Tully's not really into it, but at least he was trying. He's learned enough to kind of keep himself going with everything that's happening.
And which leads into Gomez going to the family vault to grab some money.
Yeah.
The coveted Addams Family vault, which Tully believes has riches beyond compare in it, that could solve all of his problems, while Margaret deals with Morticia and some of the other family members, trying to get some things for a upcoming charity auction.
Yeah. That
they will be putting on for, I believe, for orphans.
This is a part kind of jumping ahead here.
Yeah.
But as the crux of this movie is Abigail's son, her quote-unquote adoptive son,
yes,
who looks extremely like their long-lost Uncle Fester from the Addams Family. Tully says, hey, why don't we pretend that he's Fester so he can sneak into the house and steal their money, because they'll trust him if they think he's family.
Of course.
This starts okay, but goes very poorly as it continues on, because obviously this Fester doesn't remember anything about being Fester. And so it's not working out really well for him at all.
No. It's going decently, and obviously Gomez is extremely happy to see his brother back, but Gordon / we'll just call him Fester from now on.
Yeah.
But obviously this is Gordon Craven as Fester, not Fester as Fester.
Yeah.
Fester just doesn't remember enough. Like, he can put together clues and sort of like improv his way through most of it, but...
Which is funny because they never... he never tries to say anything about possibly just losing his memory. They said he was lost in the Bermuda Triangle for 25 years, and they never... He never tries to make an excuse for why he can't remember things.
It's so interesting that they couldn't just I wonder like if they were scared to.
Yeah.
Like would that have like broken it if like, oh, he can't remember, that's bad, then he's obviously not my brother anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like what were they thinking was going to happen? Like
Yeah.
they probably would have been like, oh, the seance, of course, he came back wrong. We'll fix it. It's fine.
That's the thing is I think on it is the way that they fix this at the end of the movie, realistically, they would have fixed it a lot faster, knowing the Addamses, if he had said that. So,
probably. They probably would have been like, oh, we have just the trick. Or just, drink this.
Yeah, or like we're
potion bottle with a skull on it.
We're gonna reorganize your brain or something like that. Like, the plot would not be allowed to happen if he were to say that. So I think realistically that's the only thing as to why they couldn't have just said, oh, I don't have a good memory, or my memory's messed up from this event kind of thing. That's the only thing I think.
We get into the very, like, the crux of the plot of Gordon Craven, our villain's adopted son of Abigail Craven, is now living with the Addams under the guise of Uncle Fester. The Addams family have pretty much bought into it. Gomez is sold on it. Morticia seems to have some, like, suspicious eyeing of Fester. Wednesday is following her mother's intuition, and also a little questioning. Pugsley doesn't have a thought in the world, and the rest just take it beat by beat. Meanwhile, we've got Abigail now going or posing as a German psychiatrist named Dr. Pinderschloss, who is trying to help things along, but mostly seems to disappear until she's needed later on. I feel like they could have... in my mind, and maybe it's just like, obviously they are normie people handling the Addams family, who to them are very strange and different, and we are people who are in the know about what the Addams family are like. But I feel like they just could have handled the situation way better. Like how we were discussing earlier. They could have, I feel like they could have come to them in a way that would have gotten them money without having to, like, go underhanded or, like, screw things up so bad.
Right.
It's just y'all keep stepping on rakes in the garden and hitting yourselves in the head. This could have been solved so easy, I feel.
Yeah, y'all again, you could have just asked, you could have done this, that, or the other, but it's interesting in that aspect of both of the villains, I will say, in this movie and the next, are people who come across as very normal. As Wednesday says in a line at the end of the movie, for Halloween, she's just dressed as herself, and her response to what is her costume is, I'm a homicidal maniac, they can look like anyone.
Classic
and
line.
That's kind of, I think, the thing is that, yes, the oddball, weird-looking people are the ones who are the good people in this movie, and the ones who are the greedy, like, killers and violent ones out there are the ones who are the normalist looking ones. Like, they look fashionable or trendy or just you'd know them at school or your workplace kind of thing. So it's kind of interesting in that regard that it's like the normies are the bad ones. But
it just shows you just different forms of corruption.
Mm-hmm.
Like this, like real evil looks like the well-to-do, like middle to high class woman in the like with the tight smile and the well manicured nails and the and like the knowing eyes, like true evil looks like this. And sorry to point fingers at, like,
Yeah.
certain people, but, like, they're not wrong. Like, real evil is people that are corrupt in a way that they are trying to screw you out of your entire life just for some money, just so they can get ahead in money, and that's it. Like, it is such an interesting way to, like, view these characters, and, like, the difference between the Addams Family and the, like, greed that the villains of the movie portray.
Yes.
We have scenes of Gomez and Fester going to the family vault. They note that the revolving bookcase is filled with books, and until now we find out that the correct one is obviously the one titled Greed, while the other ones seem to summon some effect correlating to their title.
Yeah.
Which is a small gag until later on. But just to remind that, to say something along the lines of what's the first one that Tully pulls out whenever he gets there? Because I remember The Sun Also Rises.
Gone with the Wind.
Gone with the Wind, and he summons like a gust of
He gets like
air.
a blast of wind to his face.
And The Sun Also Rises is like
he's sunning himself
a
with
nice tan machine.
Mm-hmm.
How handy would that be? Just books that are literal. I'm
God,
sure you could
honestly.
figure something out for that.
We need more of those.
But yeah, they go to the vault after Fester like views the various ways to get there through the multiple chains that you have to pull, or the single chain you have to pull out of a handful of other ones to get to fall through the trapdoor, through a gondola ride to another place that's all seemed to be underground somewhere, to the vault itself. He does find all of the treasure and gold, but the fun thing about the riches, and it's again another thing that I really like about how another very small thing that like clues in how the Addams Family, or maybe just Gomez himself, views all of this, is that when they get to the room, there are a bunch of various like knickknacks. It almost looks like a den, like a little man's den for Gomez of sorts.
It's like a man cave, quote unquote.
And Gomez tells Fester to go get some brandy for them. And Fester messes around a little bit and accidentally activates like the revolving door of this like bar area that turns to where all of the gold and riches are there. Jewels, like so much money is back there, shoved away in a closet somewhere behind a revolving door, because Gomez doesn't care about the money.
No.
The Addams Family doesn't care about that money, really. What the treasure here, the stuff in the vault, are the memories that Gomez and in extension the rest of the Addams Family have been able to keep here. Like this is their treasure, is like the knickknacks and the memories and the various things that they can have here locked away in the vault. This is where he has like videotapes of him and Fester as children at a camp and doing stuff there. Like this is what is important to them, and that is just I think that's just such a very sweet thing too.
Yeah.
That like points out like how these people think. But we get some viewings of some old tapes of Fester and Gomez as children, and we find out the root of the incident years ago was Gomez was jealous of Fester because he believed Fester was so amazing and could have anything he wanted that he wooed away both of their potential love interests of the Flora and Fauna, these two conjoined twins, away from Fester, and apparently this caused a rift between them. And because of this, and because of a few other things, this is where Fester's memory loss, or quote-unquote, comes into play, because he can't remember a secret word that they used to call each other all the time. He can't remember certain things, like certain like key details of their past. And this starts to clue Gomez in a little bit about, oh, this might not be my brother.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets mad.
Yeah.
Not immediately, but as things start to build up, he starts to realize, oh, this might not be him. This might be my Fester, actually. And starts to sort of let out that anger.
He gets very frustrated with it, kind of understandably. And again, if Fester had just said, "I've had memory issues," then they would have been able to work through that.
Yeah,
but he doesn't, and so we just have a very upset Gomez, who they contact the Abigail, still pretending to be a psychiatrist,
Dr. Penderslosh,
extremely gaslights Gomez into believing that Fester has had some kind of issue where he thinks that or maybe that's Gomez is remembering
it's like
Fester so
displacement
differently.
Theory.
Yeah, he remembers Fester so differently, but it is how Fester actually was, so Gomez is the one who's wrong. Fester is fine. Which he falls for. Bless his little heart.
Yeah. I mean, it sort of just comes down to it of, like, this is a woman who is putting herself in a very respectable position. Yeah. And why wouldn't they trust her? Like, she brought their family back to them, and she's only come to seem very well-meaning for everyone. Yeah. And she's using a lot of words that sound correct. Like, oh, obviously this is what's up. Because I don't want to be mad about my brother I don't want to think that that's not my brother. I am the problem, obviously. I don't want to put all the impetus on him anymore. I want to take the blame and throw things under the rug.
Right.
He just love him brother so much.
He really do.
He love him brother. He love him family. He just wants everything to be so perfect for him and his family that he doesn't want to, like, possibly think that things could be a little ill-to-do.
Yeah.
So while he's back on board, the others are still a little suspicious. Fester gets caught trying to break into the vault, but he pulls the wrong lever and gets dumped out into the graveyard, where Morticia finds him. And Morticia takes him through, like, a tour of the Addams family of the past. The now dearly departed, and ultimately tells him that what is the exact line?
It's the kind of the point that I was thinking of earlier, is that the Addamses are very, like, do unto others, despite their kind of, like, being known for, again, the Addams aren't necessarily, like, best moral compass per se.
No.
They've got murderers, robbers, violence in their family. But they also are just like, that's just kind of how it is sometimes, you know.
That's how those people decided to live their life.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that? They were living happy to what their life dictated, right. Like how their own code dictated.
Right.
And that's fine. Sure, maybe some of them got what coming to them, but you know, so it goes.
But there's a point where Morticia essentially says to him, like, we will take vengeance against those who will go against us.
The exact thing she points out, the Addams Family, like, motto, or like the credo.
Yeah.
Of I'm going to butcher Latin, so bear with me. Sic Gorgiamus allos subjectados nunc, which translates to we gladly feast on those who would subdue us. And she tells him that those are not just pretty words, that this is how we live our life. Like, we are good people, or we are good people is the wrong thing to say. We live the way that we want to, but if people would try to hurt us, we are not going to just let them. Like, we will try, we are happy the way we are, and if you try to get in the way of our happiness, we will not just stand idly by. Which is of course, somewhat of a veiled threat towards Fester, but as far as things go, things seem to be going back to normal. Gomez is happy again. People a little suspicious still. But Fester does start to get closer to the rest of the family as well. And particularly bonding with Wednesday and Pugsley by teaching them how to correctly murder someone, or what it really looks like to kill a man. Which is an important thing for all children to know, if I'm being honest.
It is.
Gordon's / Fester, of course, his mom is not happy that he is having so much fun. Like, Fester's is finally... You can tell that the relationship between... To zoom out and then zoom in on something else for just a tick.
Mm-hmm.
The entire time we have gotten to interact with Abigail and Gordon, mother and son, the relationship between these two is so off-putting. In a way, they are initially portrayed as mother has the power of the of this duo and commands Gordon to do as she wishes. And the way they interact is, dare I say, borderline incestual. The way that she...
There's a very Norman Batesy kind of thing about it,
It just feels like she is very a certain way about him.
Yeah.
And we get this later on as well, where she sees that he is having so much fun with the Addams family and is growing closer to them and is like understanding, this is what a family is. Like, this is an actual family.
Right.
And these people don't think of me as weird. Nothing I do to them is weird. That's great. But when he expresses this to Abigail, to his mother, she is extremely unpleased. She thinks that he is...
Absolutely
She thinks that he is losing sight of the goal, of the money. She thinks that he is playing around too much and needs to just take advantage of what he can. Everything is not going the way that she wants it to. So she, of course, does the manipulative mother thing of turning things back around on him, like, oh, obviously I must not have raised you correctly, or I'm the issue here. Like, everything is going wrong because I didn't do as what I needed to do. Don't you love me anymore? You love them more than you love your own mother?
Oh boy, I'm the bad guy.
Fantastic
now.
work.
Yeah.
And obviously this has Fester torn between two worlds. Torn between the world that he has ever known of his mother and the world that he could know with his newly found family.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, I thought that he was going to, hunker down on to siding with Abigail in this situation, but he does pretty much immediately throw that back out the door and goes to have fun with the family again. They attend a play put on by Wednesday and Pugsley's school. Such a good scene. Even before we get to that point of Wednesday and Pugsley.
This was the opposite of the secondhand embarrassment from stage fright.
God, this was me popping off.
This is what I want to see from more.
This is what I need to see from every theater I go to. If you don't go this hard, what are you even doing?
Yeah.
We get more interaction with the Addams family and, as we're going to keep referring to them, the everyday normies of natural society.
Mm-hmm.
No one calls Wednesday... The focus here is on Wednesday. No, we don't really get to hear from the teacher anything about Pugsley, but we get the teacher pulling Morticia to the side and saying that Wednesday's been a bit different. She's sort of a little off-putting. She brought in a picture of their deceased great aunt who was a witch burned in the Salem witch trials, as people they look up to and idolize. And Morticia thinks that's fine. You're allowed to go seduce a priest and run naked through the streets, but college first, of course.
Yeah.
It's just a very fun time seeing them interacting with normie people and just seeing how they view things versus how quote unquote natural society views it. And something I appreciate a lot, and I don't know, It could be intentional. It could have just been how it was shot. Who could say? I can't be in the mind of the director. But when we get to the actual viewing of the play, we have an opening start where there's a bunch of children singing a poorly rehearsed song dressed as like elves and flowers or something. It's
despite this being what's supposed to be Shakespeare.
Supposedly, yeah. You have just the Addams family of Morticia and Gomez and Grandmama, sorry.
Yeah.
Like reacting like, ugh, what is this? And obviously all the normies being like, aw, this is so cute. Something I really like is that during this scene, obviously the shot is very focused on the Addams family, the in the audience watching. All the extras look like cardboard cutouts. Like they're barely moving. They're like very frozen with like looks of delight on their face.
Yeah.
While the Addams family, like Morticia, Gomez, Grandmama, I don't remember if Lurch is there in the crowd or not, but
I think he was at home taking care of the house, probably.
Ah, that makes sense, yes. Oh, he was, I believe. Who could say? But they're in motion and showing displeasure, and everyone else is just stuck in like a frozen frame almost. You don't see really any movement from anyone else in the audience. And it just felt like very natural, like, oh, this is, like, they are cardboard cutouts because they're just all the same. And the Addams family are actually willing to be different and, like, alive in their own sense.
It very much goes into that, like, 2.5 white picket fence type thing. That the Addamses are so not that. They're not conforming to society because it's like, why would you? kind of thing.
And then we get to Wednesday and Pugsley going on stage. And they're not really performing Shakespeare exactly.
No.
But they are doing a sword fight.
I'd rather watch their stuff, yeah.
And Fester did show up to watch this, of course. He's so happy for his niece and nephew.
Proud.
As they are going on stage and cutting each other, the most blood you've ever seen starts spewing out of them.
It is haunted house, like, spooky style blood everywhere.
And, like, it's not like the cheap stuff, too. Like, this looks like the blood spray that gets onto the people in the front row. Look, again, they shouldn't have been in the splash zone. I'm just saying.
I have actually been to a play now where they said, be careful if you're sitting in a certain area, you are in a splash zone. Like, are bad.
And it is just such a visceral spray of blood, just covering these people. And most of them are, like, besides the people that are reacting, like Tully, Margaret, and this, like, one-off character who occasionally shows up, the judge.
Ah, yes.
Everyone is just frozen, accepting of their fate of being sprayed blood on, and the Addams family are loving it. It ends, and they are a standing ovation immediately for how proud they are.
They're so proud of their children.
It is so sweet. This is one of those movies that just puts a smile on your face.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also want to be covered in blood. Are you kidding me?
I want to have
I want to do this.
Yeah.
And this just continues the up and up of the family doing things together. Immediately after, we find out that supposedly Fester's time with the family is coming to an end. He has to return with Dr. Pinderschloss to Miami, which gives Gomez the right time to tell Fester that he is throwing a going-away party for him and inviting all of the relatives. Everyone's coming to this. It's going to be such a hootenanny.
Family time, finally here.
A side tangent. I didn't watch all of it, but I mean to go back to it, and maybe I will with season 2. Dead End Park? Is that it?
Yeah.
I guess it didn't really connect with me that Pugsley would maybe be named after this Pugsley. I don't know if that's just a coincidence or not, but it feels like...
It's probably just like that because he's a pug.
I mean, yeah, but like the content of that show feels like, oh, that creator did watch Addams Family.
Yeah,
and then
I can see where you're
maybe
coming from on that.
named the dog after,
Mhm.
like as a reference or as a homage. But
Yeah,
just a stray thought I had. Everyone go watch Dead End Park on
please.
Netflix.
I think season 2 drops in like a week or so.
Or sorry, Dead End Paranormal Park. Go
Yeah.
watch that on Netflix right now. What are you doing listening to us?
Yeah, like we got good queer horror, good rep, all that jazz over there. Please.
But yeah, they throw a party. They throw a party for Fester's going away, and it's a huge bash. Another fun scene of watching the background characters
Mm-hmm.
and just seeing like the little freaks that they have in the back. Like from like, and I don't mean this in like a negative way, and obviously I don't think, and none of these characters are portrayed in like a negative light. All of this is portrayed this is natural, this is fine.
Right.
None of this is like, people are deformed in a sense, like physically misshapen. Some characters have
disabilities
like,
do not make you less human.
Yeah, like none of this is like pointed at no one's pointing a finger and saying ha ha at any of this. It is all accepting, like this is just how they are. Yes. And everyone is accepting of it at face value, and it's very nice. But it is fun to watch like the man with like the really weird and overgrown beard that looks bad, or the cousin who has a really bad hunch and like really bad hair, but is like noted by Morticia's like, oh, you've done some growing up, I see. And it's just a very sweet moment.
There's definitely the side there again of a lot of, unfortunately, physical and mental disabilities are used in horror.
Yes.
They are tropes to show that something is unnatural, that something is inhuman, that something is monstrous. And it's like, no, this is just how people are sometimes. And so again, it's to the point of the Addams Family, they don't care about how you look. They don't care about what's in your head. Like, all they care about is are you good to them? And they will be good to you. It doesn't matter anything else about you. Like, that's just how they roll.
Which leads Uncle Fester into Uncle Fester / Gordon into this like war against his own like guilt and conscience of like, I really like the time I have been with this family. They make me feel normal. Right. They make me feel accepted. But I also, my mother, like, this is my mother and this is the plan. I've come here to do a thing, and that is take stuff from them. And he's like torn up about what he wants to do. As an aside, we also get introduced, we also get the moment where Margaret, Tully's wife, is thrown into a dance with
the man of her dreams.
With the man of her dreams, Cousin It. A man made of hair? Covered in hair? Who could say? But
who could say? Yeah.
But you know, they don't
immediately
hit it off because she's put off at the start. But as we see later on in the night, they are confiding with each other and talking very close and having a great time together. And honestly, I ship it.
It's what they deserve.
That's relationship goals. Have an affair with your have an affair with a very nice man you've met to get out of the terrible marriage you've brought yourself into. You know, if it sucks, hit the bricks.
We don't advocate cheating. Yeah, we're not advocating cheating on your partner, but we are saying if your partner is abusive to you, leave.
Yeah, like,
and find someone who's
like you're both unhappy.
If that's what
save your both's like the trouble. And obviously your husband is also trying to get into some pretty shady shit. So, you know, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Look out for number one.
You find a nice hair man or woman, hey, go for it.
During all of this, multiple things happen. A few things happen simultaneously.
The plot escalates.
The plot does escalate. Wednesday finds out from eavesdropping and then from walking into and then eavesdropping and then outright just making herself known to them, that she finds out Uncle Fester is not who he says he is, that Dr. Pinderschloss says she is not who she says she is, and that they are in cahoots. I guess you could chalk it up to, like, child brain, but when she, like, goes into the room and, like, finds them and is eavesdropping, I was just thinking, like, leave and go tell your mom and dad. Like, don't... Like, she immediately, like, makes herself known of, like, I knew you weren't real. And it's like, girl, just leave. Run back down to the party. Tell your parents, like, hey, I just saw some shady shit. Our suspicions made true. Like, let's go clear some stuff up real quick. But no, she gets into a chase and escapes into the family cemetery. Meanwhile, Tully, the lawyer, learns from, I believe, Flora and Fauna, the conjoined twins that from camp that have now showed up again at this party. I believe she learns from them that Fester, as the eldest son, is the rightful owner of all the property that the Addams family has, of the Addams family estate.
Yes.
Tully does some underhanded stuff and goes to the judge, who lives nearby and has been constantly scorned by the Addams family, and has a grudge against them. They collaborate and procure a restraining order against the Addams family that they cannot live at their home and have forfeited all rights to their estate. Gomez, obviously very upset by this. His brother, who is not his brother, has betrayed him. The entire family are trying to work through it, but they have all found themselves in various ruts of, like, not really sure about what they can do to escape this or to make things better. But at least they're together. At least they're with each other.
It's fun in a way seeing how all of the Addamses then, like, we have to find jobs. We have to be normies. And it's appreciative in a way of how they all decide to take up these normal jobs. Morticia becomes a school teacher. The twins, they make a little lemonade stand because they're kids.
They make a little lemonade stand. Don't worry about what's in it. Just drink it.
Yeah. Even Thing gets a job. A disembodied hand probably has the best luck out of all of them.
Honestly.
But even with this, they don't lose, like, who they are and what they bring to this.
Gomez is depressed, but...
Gomez is depressed and starts watching daytime television, which is honestly the worst thing you can do.
He just wants to know where the cult is.
Where are the voodoo witches
Where did the voodoo
hiding?
witch go? Like, he just wants to reconnect with some friends. Come on.
Yeah. But Morticia, as we said before, she asks the school children, how do you think it felt for the villain to have something done to her? All of the children crying as they are now thinking about being shoved into an oven themselves.
I think...
I do too.
Sorry. God damn it, I forgot. We gotta censor that now.
Well,
we can't...
It's only in that one context.
In Minecraft. It's fine.
Yeah. But, and Wednesday and Pugsley, yeah, they're selling lemonade. Is there arsenic in it? Probably. But that's them. That's what they do. They mess with poisons and all these weird things. So yeah, they're doing their own thing. All of the family isn't letting, like, Morticia's not changing out of her black floor-length dress to go wear, like, I don't know, a mini skirt and a button-down.
Could you imagine just like, oh yeah, the Morticia Addams makeover where she just turns into Elle Woods or something?
Yeah. I would be disgusted by that, honestly. But, yeah, so I think there's something about that of, like, not losing sight of who you are while still trying to make ends meet or work on yourself. There was a voice actress I met, I remember, who she talked about that, of, like, people who are doing more with gig jobs and things like that, so that way you have time to work on your own passions. If you wanted to get into art or voice acting or podcasting, hell.
Yeah.
But you still need to make ends meet. It's like you find things that you can do within your own comfort while not giving up who you are and your ideals and your goals. it is not easy, obviously. As even in the movie, it's like they're still all living in a motel together, but they're still trying, and even in all the face of this adversity, like, that's what's really important, is to keep going, keep trying. But they all keep on keeping on until Morticia finally decides, we gotta go figure out what's up with Fester.
Like, meanwhile, we've had Tully, Gordon, and Abigail trying to get into the vault. They keep not remembering. They can't work out a system of how to pull the correct lever to activate the right trap door. As you like brought up, like, just tie something like an indicator around the ones you've done. Or maybe like the room is big enough to where one of you could stand off to the side. The trap door only opens in like this very specific part in the middle of the room. Like, one of them could have like stepped to the back or something and kept an eye out for like which ones they pulled and like note down how to get into the vault that way. I don't know. Come on, y'all. Just think about it a little bit.
Yeah.
These people would be the worst at breaking into a bank.
Yeah.
This is the easiest heist of my life, and you're ruining it. I can't imagine.
It's honestly just kind of sad, just how poorly put together it is.
Honestly. They would never make it in Ocean's 8.
No.
Morticia does return back to the family home to confront Gordon about everything, but is captured by, quote-unquote, captured by Abigail and Tully, who, quote-unquote, torture her to try to learn how to get into the vault. She loves it.
It is torture by their standards, but yeah, she's into it. She's extremely into it.
She's like feeling it, like, honestly, kind of blushing. Like, Thing notices and runs back and tells Gomez, who rushes to Morticia's rescue. Abigail threatens Morticia, threatens her life if Gomez does not surrender the family fortune, and this leads Gordon to turn against his mother. Another thing that I found really interesting was, like, Abigail just pulls out a gun, like a very small, like, handgun.
Yeah.
To point at, like, we've been using, like, ancient, like, witch torture devices.
Mm-hmm.
Those weren't working because Morticia was really into it. And then when Gomez shows up, the two of them started getting really horny with each other in front of the guests. Until Abigail just pulls out a handgun. Like, she got that thing on her and she just whips it out. And it was just really strange to see a firearm in this movie out of nowhere. I don't know why. I was just like, it struck me as one of those things of like, maybe other Addams Family media contradicts this, but it feels like they would never use a gun for like any reason.
Yeah.
Like, they are strictly anti-firearm, and maybe that's not the correct read. Like, maybe they would use a firearm for something or other, but it just felt like so strange to see a firearm being pulled out against them, because it just felt so out of place in the movie that it like reminded me of like Abigail and Tully are in a different movie. They are in like this mystery thriller type beat, and they are abiding by like the rules of that. The Addams Family are in the Addams Family, and so that's why, and us as an extension, the audience, are also in that, and so it just felt like so strange to like have that happen. Nothing comes of it. It's not like a Chekhov's gun thing where you see a gun, it has to be used. It almost immediately gets knocked out of her hand. But I don't know. This was like just a very jarring moment. I can't really quite explain beyond what I've said, but
yeah, I get the idea there, because again, it's like so much of the aesthetic of this movie comes across as like they're in an old haunted house that feels like it's from like the 1800s or something.
Like moments ago we had a rapier fight scene between Gomez and Tully again, like we did in the beginning of the movie. Yeah. Like it almost felt like goofy again. Like it felt like the stakes were pretty low, but once you pull out a gun, it feels like the stakes are immediately high again.
So it absolutely escalates everything, because it does feel just so out of left field, and like it doesn't fit in anything. But I think that's also kind of a point in the way of like Wednesday's used a crossbow in the opening of this movie. Like, we are so set in these oldie-timey things that to have a more modern level of technology is like, hey, you can't do that. Like,
hey, that's weird.
Yeah, that doesn't fit any of this.
But Gordon, fed up with his mother and how she's both treated him and the people he has come to respect and love in his own way, turns against her. Him and Gomez plan a quick plot with each other where Gordon pulls the wrong book, not the correct greed book, to make the vaults or the bookcase spin.
Mm-hmm.
He pulls out a book on Hurricane Irene, I believe.
Yes.
And points it like a weapon at Tully and Abigail and opens it, causing a hurricane to happen. In a very silly scene where everything just it feels like the most computer generated moment of the entire thing. Like it felt very out of place, but in a very good way of like, oh, this is just funny. Like, this is just a very funny end of the movie, like, for this climax. During this, Gordon gets struck by lightning from the book, which seems to awaken memories in him.
Mm-hmm.
And Tully and Abigail both get thrown out of the window into these open graves, these open caskets that Wednesday and Pugsley have used and set aside for them.
They're dead.
Who could say? Who could say what happens to them after that?
They're dead for sure after that. But yeah,
you have to assume they're going to get buried alive, right?
Yeah.
Oh well.
That's it.
7 months later, we end the movie off this little epilogue scene of it is now Halloween. Lurch scares a bunch of children at the door wearing cute Halloween costumes.
Poor guy.
One of them is Spider-Man. The only one I remember is Spider-Man. I'm sure if I went back and watched, there might be some other cute cameos there. Gordon was actually, as previously discussed, Fester all along.
Yeah.
The lightning strike made him remember everything.
The reason on my earlier point of they could have solved this easier was because we had a scene wherein Wednesday puts her brother into an electric chair.
Yep.
And I can see the Addamses, if Fester said he was having memory issues, doing a quote-unquote electroshock therapy to try and get him to remember, and that probably would have fixed it.
That probably would have been right then and there.
Yeah.
Very curious.
We had to have a plot happen in this movie, so we couldn't let anyone do that.
It's fine. We like it.
Yeah.
Other people showing up at this Halloween costume party they've got going on. Margaret and Cousin It are together now. Good for them.
It's
very
what they
happy.
deserved, yeah.
Pugsley is dressed up as Fester. Wednesday is a homicidal maniac. And everything pretty much ends happily ever after. They're all ready to go on their way. The final thing being that Morticia and Gomez are yet again professing their love for each other. And Morticia reveals a knit sweater, a little knit baby sweater with 3 legs, as a little hint that she is pregnant.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen the sequel, but
it's a good time.
I can only assume that that's what that one's about.
Yeah. It's funny because I think also, from what little bit that I had read on the page about it, is this movie was apparently a lot more true to the zany weirdness of the original series of the Addams Family. But the next movie, while still a comedy, was a lot darker in its humor and its themes.
Interesting.
They leaned more into, I guess, the like dark, spooky, somewhat violent side of like what the Addams could have been, kind of thing. So there are things that it says is not as good as the first one, but again, I've seen a lot more from and about the sequel than I have the original. So who's to say? I think it's just a matter of preference. But that's an Adam.
That's the Addams Family. I don't know, a few things to touch on, I think are, I don't know, I think this movie does a lot of things right. I think that it is very fun to watch a movie from this age of movie making where a lot of the cuts in it, and to go right into like movie making stuff, or like things I appreciate from that perspective, a lot of the cuts in it are like very quick.
Yeah.
Not in like a snappy back and forth like shot counter shot way, but like we will be in a scene like we are in the scene with Gomez and Fester in the family vault, immediately cut to a different scene like while they are talking. Like there's no preamble. We don't need like a sweeping shot to like lead us into a scene. We don't need like to like mess around or like set in like a mood or like any ambiance. They just immediately like let you go into a different scene without like having to worry about too much setup. And it's fine because it works. Another thing I appreciate is that while I'm not going to repeat jokes back that this movie does, because they will do it better than I will, by quoting it, I really appreciate this movie's humor in the way that like almost every other line is a like turn of phrase or like a joke of some sense, even if it's just minor.
Yeah.
Like I said I wasn't, but I'm going to immediately go into like just like really early on while going like looking through stuff to like give away to the charity auction, them going through a Uncle Knick-Knack's belongings, like, oh, Uncle Knick-Knack's winter wear, Uncle Knick-Knack's summer wear, Uncle Knick-Knack.
Yeah.
Pulling out like a body bag.
Body in the closet,
like, and then like it doesn't get dwelled on. It like Margaret, who is in the scene, like makes a face. They cut away. It's never brought up again. We don't have to worry about that. It's just like a good cutaway gag, and that's something I just like really appreciate from this movie's humor as well.
It's very, very on point with everything. It's very clever. It's very snappy, witty, fun. Like it's just a good movie.
And they know when to not overstay their bounds. Like I could see this. Like this movie is an hour and 30, like solid time. Like they get everything they need to get done. It could maybe be a slight bit shorter. Like maybe they could have removed like a little, like a tiny bit. And even then, this is not me complaining about length because this is an actual like good length movie. If this movie was 2 hours long, I think it would maybe not, it would maybe be stretching it a little thin.
Yeah, I feel that.
But I think they do well with their time, and I think just all in all, excellent movie. Just extremely good. Really glad we watched it. Sad I've never watched much Addams Family, but, you know, cultural osmosis has kept me in the loop, more or less.
Yeah. It's hard to not know about it in some way, shape, or form, is what I would say. Because, like, it's just made that much of a cultural impact just on generations, like, plural. Because, again, like, you've got a lot of our age who grew up with these movies and the ideas and just kind of like the renaissance that it has given to like aesthetics and relationships and everything like that. And then you've also got older generations who grew up watching the original show and just knew what it was from that. And I do think that the original, it's gonna have an impact on them, and it lives up well to the original.
Shoutouts.
Adam's good.
Adam's good. Do we have any closing thoughts or other things we want to talk about in regards to Addams Family or anything else? Do you anything else you want to talk about? I'm not gonna. I'll let you speak your mind.
Be yourself. Don't hurt yourself or others, but be yourself.
Be other people. Become a mimic and try to like encapsulate other people's vibes.
I don't know about that one, but just remember that you also find your own family out there, and that's a lot of this movie as well. Found family.
Yeah, it's all about the people that you find that you love, and that sometimes your real mom sucks.
Yes, and sometimes you get to be real weird, and that's okay.
Yeah, we'll be back next Sunday.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. We're gonna try to get back into the swing of things.
Yeah,
we're gonna try a weekly release for this month because obviously October, very special, very Halloween month.
Mm-hmm.
What are we watching next week, Will?
we're going to be watching Arsenic and Old Lace.
Yeah.
It's an old black and white film starring Cary Grant, Bicon. And it is a comedy that takes place on Halloween, so it fits in our movie. Explicitly in Halloween.
Yes.
Whereas Addams Family opened on Christmas and ended on Halloween.
Took place in March, ends on Halloween.
Yeah.
Curious.
Strange fellows.
But yeah, I've only seen Arsenic and Old Lace once a while ago at your house. I will be very excited to see this one again. I remember really liking it when we watched it, so hey, I'm sure it'll be a fun time to talk about.
It's a comedy of errors that I've grown up with.
All right, well, that's us. How do we end this again?
Yeah. Subscribe to our channels. Give us your money. And
oh yeah, I guess we should plug things. Why not?
Give us things, please.
You can find our show on Twitter at Holidaze Podcast. You can find me, Tyler. We don't really introduce ourselves, but
Yeah.
That's me. You can find me on Twitter at JazzySmoothReal. You can find William at Schwilliam13.
It's me.
That's William with a CH or SCH.
Schwa.
Ashwa. Ashush. You can find us on YouTube, which is the only place we're really uploading this. So if you're listening to this, you're probably already at the YouTube. It costs money.
Yeah.
Until this starts paying the bills.
Yeah, give us your money so we can spend that money on putting ourselves out.
We make the joke about Patreon, but I'm not opening a Patreon yet, obviously.
No.
And I don't think either of us has a coffee.
No, that's for artists. And traditional artists.
Traditionally art types, but I'm sure anyone could have one. Anyways, we don't need your money yet, but if you're listening to this, you're probably listening on YouTube. But, click that like, click the subscribe, tell your friends, tell your mom, tell your grandma. They probably listen to Addams Family. We say very few cuss words. I don't remember how many we said this episode, but it probably wasn't that many.
I think actually this was less than usual.
We were good.
Yeah.
I'll count it later. I'll count it while editing it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you next time. And remember...
Stay spooky.
What?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Stay spooky.
Oh, stay spooky. That's true. Remember, stay spookus. Good night, everyone.
Good night.